Welcome to the 9th Co-Creative Thought Transformation video. Practicing awareness might seem tougher as we move along, but stay with me. I know where we are headed, and I do not expect you to master any transformation quickly. It took me 20 years to write Heart Journey, and I am still a beginner in some aspects when it comes to living these transformations daily. It's easy to lose focus, but it's rewarding when you walk the talk and everything seems to come together. Life becomes more directed and calm with less drama and chaos. It's a pleasant lifestyle to live and rewarding to channel and generate peace and abundance for yourself and others. The 9th thought pattern needing transformation is the ego armada. I am a great fan of A Course in Miracles, ACIM for short. I read the text years ago. The course consists of a short daily reading of about 20 minutes for each day for a whole year. It can be a little difficult to understand the text at the beginning as it is channeled writing, but the message gets clearer as you go along. Marianne Williamson has been an amazing teacher of A Course in Miracles, and I also follow her and have read many of her books. Around day 100 of reading the passages, the Course blew my mind with its understanding of the ego and how ego defense mechanisms block compassion, understanding, and the realization of oneness. The insight literally changed my life. As the Course and Marianne Williamson say, there is truly only one of us here. Judgment, as discussed in the 7th thought pattern needing transformation video, and possessiveness or control, as discussed in the 8th thought pattern needing transformation video, are all products of the ego. Transforming these old thought patterns into co-creative thoughts related to compassion for the 7th co-creative thought transformation and honoring the 8th co-creative thought transformation should prepare you for ending your reliance on and identification with the ego. Dismissing egotistical wants, needs, defenses, offenses, and fabrications is the next step in opening your heart more fully to the divine and allowing your co-creative partner to guide you into a deeper mystical experience. The ego is a component of the personality that maintains and promotes self-interest and self-importance. For the spiritual person on a heart journey, the ego is a false frame of reference for growth and insight. A higher power is and should be your point of reference. While you may understand this intellectually, rooting out the emotional response patterns perpetrated by the ego is a difficult process that requires insight and vigilance. The ego both loves and hates you. The ego is that part of the small self which defends you against all attacks, no matter how slight, but also criticizes you for the smallest infraction. It is a double-edged sword intent on control, both controlling you and controlling others. The ego loves you and protects you through ego defense mechanisms, which ward off or respond to criticism from others. The ego hates you by setting unrealistic standards akin to perfectionism. Lowering your ego defense mechanisms and counteracting negative self-images not only opens your heart to greater love and understanding for others, but also allows you to love yourself more completely, just as you are. The ego seeks to gain power by convincing you that you need to be defended. Others may disapprove of you, censor what you say, denounce what you do, mock what you believe, or devalue what you have. Haven't you been hurt in the past? Proof positive that you need defending. The ego develops a repertoire of defense mechanisms that will keep negative comments at bay and/or counter any challenge. On the other hand, A good defense can be an offense. Why wait? By criticizing others or putting them down, your position and status can be assured before any assault. So let the ego fire the first shot. Either way you look at it, whether defending or offending, the goal is self-protection. What you do not see is that defense mechanisms result in the illusion of separation, or the misconception that you and your adversary have nothing in common, and your paths are not linked in any way or for any reason. He or she has nothing to show you or nothing to teach you, and there is nothing you need to understand about him, her, or yourself. The ego also criticizes you in your performance. In order to minimize criticism by others and the potential for any future emotional repercussions, you need to be perfect, or at least better than your critics. If you do not stand up in comparison, you are sure to hear of your faults sooner or later. The ego acts as an inner critic and will waste no time pointing out real or imagined flaws. Perfection is the gold standard, but being better than others will do in a pinch. Either one ensures your higher status, moving you beyond reproach and warding off future fault-finding by others. Image is everything, and the emphasis is on external manifestation. Sometimes the voice and standards of the inner critic echoes those of a parent or authority figure. Regardless, it's yours to deal with now. In all situations, just do your best, given the circumstances, time limits, and resources available. Realize that this is all you can do or need to. Perfectionism is not an option for anyone. It is unreasonable and unhealthy to allow the ego to push you to adhere to unrealistic expectations. Offensive attacks on others, defensive techniques, and self-criticism are meant to keep you and others in line. The ego wants you to believe that all this is essential to you, when in reality it is not. It is the ego that needs to be needed in order to survive. You, on the other hand, do not need the ego at all. Judgment, possessiveness, and control are not of the heart, and neither is the ego. They are all the antithesis of love and openness, and mutually exclusive. If you wish to be open-hearted, to attract and receive abundance, while continuing on a mystical journey, drop your ego defense mechanisms, whether offensive attacks, defensive techniques, or self-criticism. Once the ego is no longer gainfully employed, it will cease to be relevant and empowered. It is at this point that a higher power and your co-creative partner become most relevant as your spiritual compass, empowering your life. The ego is a passé personality remnant from fight or flight days of old. We used to have to fight for survival or flee to safety. Since the majority of us are no longer in danger and needing to run away quickly or stand our ground and fight valiantly, the ego could be out of a job were it not for the inflation of far less damaging situations. The slightest unintended comment can elicit a defensive reaction, an emotional response. It is the negative emotion, whether it is anger, fear, or doubt, which repeatedly ignites a self-protective response that initiates the ego's return to power and usurps a higher power's influence and guidance. The ego propagates the illusion of separateness. Despite what the ego might tell you, you are not a separate and distinct entity needing a strong offense or defense. Instead, you are part of a whole seeking oneness and connection, something the ego tries to prevent. The ego keeps you from knowing and experiencing yourself and others at a deeper level by erecting an artificial barrier composed of slights, injustices, fears, doubts, lack of confidence, and anger, much of which is fabricated or blown out of proportion. Because of the ego's offensive and defensive tactics, you can lose sight of your connection to others, a higher power, and even yourself. Have you ever seen someone open up when you loved him or her beyond expectations? Have you noticed that good deeds are infectious, or that negativity can spread? Whatever you do or focus on is contagious. There really is no barrier or separation, but by being lulled into thinking you are better than others, or being beaten down into believing that you will never be good enough, you end up isolated, alone, and separate. There is no equality, no meeting of the minds and hearts. It is a trap to feel proud, better than others, impenetrable, and totally in control. It is also a trap to self-flagellate. Both tactics are ego-driven and meant to divide, conquer, and isolate. To progress quickly on your spiritual journey, appreciate who you are and be grateful without being prideful. At the same time, lower your defenses and allow yourself to experience vulnerability, humility, and personal folly. There is no need to defend or explain yourself. There is an ancient story about a Zen master. A beautiful girl in the village was pregnant. Her angry parents demanded to know who the father was. At first resistant to confess, the anxious and embarrassed girl finally pointed to the Zen master, whom everyone previously revered for living such a pure life. When the outraged parents confronted the master with the daughter's accusation, he simply replied, "Is that so?" When the child was born, the parents brought it to the Zen master, who was now viewed as a pariah by the whole village. They demanded that he take care of the child, since it is his responsibility. "Is that so?" the master said calmly, as he accepted the child. For many months he took very good care of the child, until the daughter could no longer withstand the lie she had told. She confessed that the real father was a young man in the village, whom she had tried to protect. The parents immediately went to the Zen master to see if he would return the baby. With profuse apologies, they explained what had happened. "Is that so?" said the master, as he handed them the child. Take time to honestly listen to what others have to say. You might learn something when you see yourself through their eyes. Sometimes the image will be true and helpful. Sometimes the image will be distorted by the messenger's own ego defenses. But if you at least listen, you can connect with another, understand his or her position, address misconceptions, and sometimes resolve disagreements. Saying you are sorry for a given situation, even when you are not totally at fault, indicates that you recognize another's disappointment. There is no need to react, defend, or counter in many instances. The egoless person listens to what is being said and seeks to build bridges rather than walls. Remember, you are in the top half of the heart at this point, where non-duality is the normal. Even those who thwart you or disappoint you might be in your life for a reason. Do not quickly dismiss experiences that make you uncomfortable. Pay attention to everything that happens. In the same manner, listen to what your co-creative partner has to say about your spiritual development. Lessons in manifestation are not the only lessons you will be learning. Ask to be shown and invite a review. When the response is gentle but more loving than you could have imagined, you know you are being shown spiritual wisdom. Keep in mind that your co-creative partner, or a higher power, will never berate you, make demands, or condemn you or others. The level of love and wisdom innate to the exchange keynotes spiritual insight. Great asset for getting around the ego and progressing spiritually is your ability to look at yourself honestly and laugh at your own folly. You are human. Sometimes your missteps will be intentional, sometimes they will be accidental. But if you knew better, you would do better. Humor gentles your eyes whether you look at yourself or others. The wise person sees everyone's shortcomings, including his or her own, with gentleness, then uses the information to grow spiritually. We are all naked, really. Just some of us still think we have clothes on. Maybe I was feeling insecure, or maybe I was prideful. I was definitely nervous. I was about to speak at a conference on a new topic. I wasn't sure how my lecture would be received. I turned to God for a reassurance and casually said, "Gee, it would be nice if I got a standing ovation for this talk." That was my ego talking. When I was introduced, the announcer suggested that everyone stand and give me a warm welcome and a standing ovation before my talk. I had a good laugh at my folly as I walked onto the stage. God has a great sense of humor. I was being shown how misguided my ego was. And just to complete the lesson, after I spoke, no one stood up. Here is the co-creative thought transformation you are working on this month. Practice being egoless. It is impossible to find an egoless picture, but I think Mother Teresa is an excellent example of someone who personifies this quality. She worked tirelessly for the poor and infirmed in Calcutta, India. It is also important to note that she channeled and generated abundance for those she touched. This was not necessarily financial abundance, though I am sure her order and work received many donations. She sought to heal, feed, nurse, calm, and care for all those she met who were in need. And this is what channeling and generating abundance is about, in whatever form it takes. These simple tasks will help you with this month's practice. Listen rather than defend. Apologize even if you are not totally to blame or not even involved. I am sorry that you are having this experience. This lets others know that you understand. Let others shine when you think you deserve more credit. If you always do your best and live with integrity, you do not need to seek recognition. Ask for spiritual insight from your co-creative partner or higher power. This is a spiritual path. This is a spiritual journey. Work with this co-creative thought transformation for 1 month, keeping it foremost in your mind. At the end of the month, move on to the 10th co-creative thought needing transformation. You are not expected to master any of the co-creative thought transformations in 1 month's time. These transformations are lifelong callings. There are layers and layers of spiritual insight and growth to each new co-creative thought pattern. In the beginning, awareness in and of itself is considered progress, a step in the right direction. Next month's 10th thought pattern needing transformation is guilt, which will also be in video format. Look for the 10th co-creative thought transformation on my YouTube channel or Mary Juno website. To receive notices of each new video, subscribe to my YouTube channel or newsletter. For more information about co-creative manifestation and Heart Journey as a Spiritual Path, go to my maryjuno.com website. There you will find a study guide, sample chapter, and videos. Heart Journey, the book, is available in paper and digital format. And obviously, the greatest amount of information and spiritual depth is only found in the book. My videos can only introduce you to the topic. The book can be purchased online or through a bookstore. The digital format will work with your iPad, tablet, computer, or phone. Free apps are available. I wish you all the best with this 9th co-creative thought transformation, and I look forward to sharing with you next month with a new video. I hope you have an abundant and insightful month.